وأشد حبا لله سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. My dear respected brothers and elders, for the last 6 to 7 weeks I've been speaking about the sweetness of Iman and the effect this sweetness has in one's life, how it has an impact on the heart and on the body. But now the question is, how can we obtain this sweetness? If we study the Quran and the Sunnah, there are multiple ways of obtaining this sweetness. And this should be an objective and goal of everybody. Because everybody, regardless of we going through a test or not, everyone will be facing the biggest test in their life at one point, and that is a person's departure from this dunya. This is the biggest test a person can face and will face. That in which state do we depart this dunya? Do we depart this dunya in a state where our is in the remembrance of Allah Rabbul Izzat, or our heart is heedless? And what determines this is a person's lifestyle. Whatever life we live, however we live, whatever our ambitions or goal are, at the time of death, they will all come in front of us. And on the same token, if a person lived a life where he pleased Allah in his Rasul, he surrendered his desires to the will of Allah Rabbul Izzat, his heart will be at peace, and it will be easy for this person to depart this dunya. We take Deen serious or not, we take God serious or not, we take the Prophet ﷺ serious or not, it doesn't make a difference. No one can escape death. And at that point, everything, Allah Rabbul Izzat will reveal everything. Now, one thing the ulama mention, and especially Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayh, he says, one thing which we can do to obtain this sweetness is to remember Allah Rabbul Izzat in isolation, in private. So we choose a spot at home, we turn the lights off, there should be no distraction, and we say Allah, and we keep on saying Allah 10 to 15 minutes, whatever is easy, but in isolation. There's a lot of better benefits of this dhikr. The Prophet ﷺ, Imam Munziri mentions that in the night of ascension, when the Prophet ﷺ went to visit his Rabb and his Master, he saw a person close to the Arsh of Allah Rabbul Izzat. And this person was drowned in the Noor of Allah. He was drowned in Noor. He was engulfed in Noor. The Prophet ﷺ inquired from Sayyidina Jibreel, "Oh Jibreel, who is this? Is this an angel?" The Prophet ﷺ said, "No." He said, "Then is it a prophet?" Sayyidina Jibreel said, "No." Then the Prophet ﷺ said, "Who is this?" The Sayyidina Jibreel replied, "It is a person who kept his tongue moist with the dhikr of Allah Rabbul Izzat, and whose heart was continuously attached with the masjid and salah." Continuously attached. Today we don't have an attachment with the masjid. We don't feel comfortable sitting here. If there's a soccer game, rugby game, whatever game, we can sit hours after hour. But to sit in the masjid is very hard. This is a temperament we have created, a disposition that we don't feel comfortable in the masjid. But Sayyidina Jibreel said, this person, if he's engulfed in Noor today, it is because his heart was attached with the masjid. That's why once a Sahabi asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Izni wa awjiz, izni wa awjiz." Oh Prophet of Allah, give me some advice, but it should be small advice, short and sweet. Now look how the Sahabi is addressing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's putting conditions to the advice. He should just say, "Ya Prophet of Allah, give me some advice." But what is he saying? Short and sweet. Why? Why is he saying short and sweet? Why did he put this condition? The reason why he put this condition is that the Sahaba were people of action. And if the Prophet of Allah gave him big advice, he's not going to practice. So he said, he asked something which was practical and which he could do. That's why he said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, short and sweet, so I can practice." And the Prophet ﷺ didn't reprimand him, rebuke him. No, I'm going to give you a long advice. The Prophet gave a short advice as well, very short. The Prophet of Allah said, "An yakuna lisanuka ratban bi dhikrillah." Keep your tongue moist with the dhikr of Allah Rabbul Izzat. An yakuna ratban, an yakuna lisanuka ratban bi dhikrillah. Keep your tongue moist with the dhikr of Allah Rabbul Izzat. This has many benefits, unlimited benefits. Regardless of a person being conscious or not, it will have an effect on the heart. It's not necessary, yes, the ultimate goal is when we are doing the dhikr of Allah Rabbul Izzat, we are conscious. But even if a person is not conscious, keep the Prophet of Allah didn't say that your heart has to be conscious. He said, keep your tongue moist, that's it. He didn't put a condition with the tongue, that when your tongue is moist with the dhikr of Allah Rabbul Izzat, your heart has to be conscious as well. He didn't say this, because this is hard. He just said, keep your tongue moist. Today, what is our tongue moist with? The dunya. We can talk about the dunya 24/7. Cars, houses, mobiles, our children, our belongings. But to remember Allah Rabbul Izzat, very hard. To sit in the masjid, very hard. What are the benefits? Multiple. Even if a person is not conscious when he's doing this zikr, the dhikr of Allah Rabbul Izzat, that time will come when it will turn the heart to Allah Rabbul Izzat. That time will come, you know why? Khaja Abul Hasan Harkani, rahmatullah alayhi, was a great alim. Once he was speaking about the ma'arif and israr of Allah. What is the reality of this word? What is the power of this word? Today we don't understand the power of Allah, but we understand the power of $100 note. We know what we can buy with $10, $50, $100, but we don't realize what we can buy with Allah. This whole dunya, this whole universe, the 7 heavens and the 7 earth, if it is qaim and daim, if it is alive and sustained, and if it is present, the reason is that there are people who are remembering Allah Rabbul Izzat. There's a hadith the Prophet of Allah has mentioned. He said, when there will be no person that will remember Allah. What do you mean by remember Allah? Say the word Allah. Qiyamah will come. The day of judgment will come then. So until there are people saying Allah, regardless of that person being conscious or not, Qiyamah cannot come. This is the power of this one word, Allah. When kufr will be widespread and there will be no Islam, no believer, then Qiyamah will come. Now Abu Hasan Harkani, he was talking about the ma'arif, the haqiqah, the reality of this word. He's saying this has an effect on one's health. This has an effect on one's wealth. This increases rizq. This increases a person's izzah, honor, dignity. And now Hakim Bu Ali Sina comes. He was a philosopher, a rationalist. Hakim Bu Ali Sina. He said, how is this possible? That one word has so much effect? He was trying to rationalize this, trying to make sense of this. Like today, we try to make sense of deen. What's the reason behind this? And the objective is, our objective is not sincere or pure. Our objective is to avoid the ruling. If the objective was to find the hakika and the intention was good, there's no harm. But today our intention is crooked. It is evil, it is to avoid. So we want to find a reason where we don't have to practice that hukam or that order of Allah Rabbul Izzat. Now this person, you said, how is this possible? That Allah has so much effect. So when Hazrat finished his dars, his class, his lesson, Khaja Abul Hasan Harkani, he said, this Hakim Bu Ali Sina said to Khaja Abul Hasan Harkani, oh Hazrat, you said that this Allah has so much effect. It increases a person's health, wealth, rizq, dignity, this and that. How? Because he was a rationalist. You know what Hazrat said? Akhar tujhe dani. Akhar tujhe dani. Oh donkey, what do you know? As soon as he said this, you can imagine what happened. A storm inside. This was Hakim Bu Ali Sina, one of the most intellectuals of his time. And what has he been called? Donkey by Khaja Abul Hasan. Akhar tujhe dani. You can imagine the emotions, the feelings. He starts to perspire. And then Hazrat, after a little while, asks him, Hazrat, what's happened to you? Why are you perspiring? Why are you melting? He said, Hazrat, don't you know? He goes, what? He said, in front of everyone, you call me a donkey. You don't know who I am? He goes, Hazrat, if that's the case, if me calling you a donkey has such an effect, doesn't Allah, the word Allah, have any effect? Can't it affect your heart? If the word donkey has such an effect that you are perspiring, if a person says Allah consciously, even unconsciously, can't it have an effect on the heart? Then he realized, yes, it can have an effect. That's why Sayyidina Imam Azam rahmatullah alayhi, when he sent Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayhi to be Qazi al-Quzzat, the judge of the Supreme Court, the first judge in Islamic history, Qazi Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayhi, he gave him some advice. And that advice is in Wasaya Imam Azam, in Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah's advice to his students and his son. What advice did he give, and what advice should he be given? He should give advice relating to his domain, his field, and to the court. That when a judgment comes to you, a ruling comes to you, a mas'ala comes to you, you should look at the Quran, the Sunnah, Ijma, Qiyas, things like this. But what did he say? He said nothing like this. He said, Abu Yusuf, remember, when you are in the midst of people, when you are amongst people, remember Allah Rabbul Izzat, so the people can learn dhikr from you. So the people can learn the remembrance of Allah Rabbul Izzat from you. That's why somebody came to Hasan Basri and he said, Hazrat, inshallah we will continue next week. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.